The folding chairs scraped across the school blacktop as parents shifted for a better view. Ethan stood near the back, holding a paper cup of lemonade he did not remember picking up. His daughter Lily sat cross-legged with her class, braid coming loose, scanning the crowd for him. Their eyes met. She gave him a small wave. Then the teacher stepped to the microphone. Lily Morgan has shown wonderful growth this year. We are so proud of her and her dad, Daniel, who volunteers with us every week. Applause started before Ethan Brain caught up. Daniel, a man in the second row, stood, smiling like this moment belonged to him. Miss Carter beamed. Daniel, come stand with your daughter. The man walked to the front. Lily hesitated, looked at him, then at Ethan, her hand lowered. Ethan tried to move, but his legs felt slow, heavy, like he was walking through water. Parents around him clapped, unaware. Phones lifted to record, and in the middle of a bright spring afternoon, with paper banners flapping overhead and children fidgeting on the blacktop, Ethan watched another man take his place beside his daughter while the whole school cheered. In the parking lot, heat radiated from the asphalt. Ethan sat in his car, hands shaking on the steering wheel. Memories stacked up fast. Late nights, Maya said she was at parent committee meetings. Weekend classroom projects she insisted she would handle. The new phone password last fall. He pressed his forehead to the wheel. He did not want to be the jealous husband. Did not want to be the suspicious man. So he had chosen not to see. At home that night, the house felt staged. Dinner dishes washed too quickly. Lily sent to her room with a movie. Maya stood at the kitchen island, arms wrapped around herself. You embarrassed me, she said quietly. Ethan stared at her. You erased me. Tears welled in her eyes, but she did not look ashamed. She looked tired. Daniel helped when you were always at work. I was working to pay the mortgage. She shook her head. You were working to avoid being here. The words landed hard. Because they were partly true. He had hidden in overtime. In business trips he volunteered for. But that did not explain a stranger being called Dad. How long? Maya did not answer. How long has he been pretending to be Lily's father? She whispered, since winter break. Ethan leaned on the counter to stay upright. 4 months, school mornings, field trips, class photos, memories he did not even know he had lost. Did Lily know? Maya nodded, crying now. We told her it was easier for school forms, that you were busy. Ethan's face twisted. You replaced me for convenience. She flinched. I was drowning too. The fight burned hot and fast, then hollow. That night, Ethan slept on the couch, staring at the ceiling fan spinning slow circles like time refusing to move. In the morning, he drove to the school office instead of work. The receptionist smiled politely. He asked for Lily's file. I am her father. I need to correct records. Paperwork slid across the counter. Emergency contacts listed Daniel Reyes. Father. Ethan felt something inside him collapse. He requested copies. The secretary hesitated, then complied. In the parking lot, he sat with the documents on the passenger seat. There was Daniel's signature on field trip forms. Medical consent. Photo release. Legal guardian. Ethan's hands trembled. Maya had not just leaned on another man. She had rewritten reality. That afternoon, he met a lawyer recommended by a co-worker. A small office that smelled like old coffee and printer toner. He laid the papers on the desk. The lawyer read slowly. This is serious misrepresentation. He explained parental rights, custody laws, documentation trails. Ethan listened through a fog of shame and fury. He hated that it had come to this. Hated the word custody applying to his own child. Weeks passed in tense silence. Maya moved into the guest room. Daniel stopped coming to the house. Lily grew quiet, watching both parents like someone monitoring a storm. One evening, Ethan found her sitting on the stairs, hugging her knees. "Are you still my dad?" The next morning, Ethan drove Lily to school in silence. She stared out the window, backpack on her lap, fingers tracing the zipper back and forth. When they pulled into the drop-off line, she did not open the door right away. "Dad." "Yeah, if someone asks, what should I say?" His hands tightened on the steering wheel. "About what?" "About who my dad is." The question was small. Careful. Practiced. Ethan forced his voice steady. "You say I am." She nodded, but did not move. "What if they say I am wrong?" His throat burned. "Then you tell them grown-ups make mistakes. Not kids." She finally opened the door and stepped out. Halfway to the entrance, another student ran up to her. Ethan could not hear the words through the closed windows, but he saw Lily hesitate. He saw her glance back at the car, then he saw her point toward him. The other child looked over, confused. Lily said something else, quick, defensive. The bell rang. She disappeared inside. Ethan sat there long after the line of cars had cleared, hands still gripping the wheel, realizing something that hurt worse than being embarrassed in front of adults. His daughter was now defending his place in her life. At 6 years old, because he had not protected it soon enough. The question broke him open. He knelt in front of her. "Nothing changes that." She searched his face. "Miss Carter said Daniel was." Ethan forced a steady voice. "Adults made a mistake. I should have been there more. But I am always your dad." She nodded slowly, not fully convinced. That look stayed with him. At mediation, the truth spread out under fluorescent lights. School forms, emails, volunteer logs. Maya admitted she had listed Daniel because he was available, because Ethan traveled, because it felt easier. The mediator's expression hardened. Ease does not override legal identity. Daniel spoke quietly. "I cared about Lily. I did not try to replace anyone." Ethan surprised himself by believing him. But caring did not equal father. The agreement came slowly. Shared custody, school records corrected, boundaries enforced. No one else listed as parent without written consent. It did not feel like victory. It felt like rebuilding after a fire. Months later, another school event, science fair night. Ethan arrived early, helped Lily tape her poster about plant growth. His hands shook when he wrote his name on the visitor sticker. "Dad." Miss Carter approached, more careful now. "Glad you are here, Mr. Morgan." He nodded. "So am I." Lily presented her project, voice small but brave. When she finished, she ran to Ethan first. He lifted her, breathing in the scent of glue sticks and shampoo. Across the room, Maya watched, not smiling, not angry, just understanding the cost of what had been broken. Ethan was not perfect. He still worked long hours. Still forgot to sign one homework sheet. Still burned toast some mornings. But he showed up. Every time it mattered. And when Lily introduced him to a classmate's parent later that night, she said it simply. "This is my dad." No confusion. No replacement. Just truth, earned the hard way. The weeks after the science fair did not magically soften everything. They just made the cracks visible in daylight. Ethan started rearranging his life in small, stubborn ways. He blocked off school pickup days on his work calendar. He turned down a conference in Chicago that would have meant 3 nights away. His boss raised an eyebrow. "You always jump at travel." Ethan shrugged. Things changed. At home, the air stayed careful. Maya and Ethan spoke like co-workers sharing a tight office. Logistics, schedules, groceries. Lily felt it anyway. One Saturday morning, she spilled orange juice across the table and burst into tears that had nothing to do with juice. "I just want it to be normal again." Ethan opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Because normal had been a lie. Later that day, he found an email in his inbox from the school district office. Subject line, Parent identity documentation follow-up. His stomach dropped. He clicked. They needed formal confirmation of custody arrangements and parental authority due to prior discrepancies. Paperwork, more proof, more explaining why his name had once disappeared. At the district office, fluorescent lights hummed overhead. A woman in a navy cardigan flipped through his folder. Birth certificate copy, custody agreement, driver license. She compared signatures with clinical calm. We just have to make sure everything is consistent across systems. Systems? Ethan nodded, like he was fixing a software bug instead of reclaiming his place in his daughter's life. As he stood to leave, he heard a familiar voice down the hallway. Daniel. Ethan froze. Daniel stood near a bulletin board with a stack of volunteer forms in his hand. He looked surprised, too. Hey. They faced each other in the beige hallway. No kids, no stage, just two men who had stood on opposite sides of the same mistake. You still volunteering. Daniel nodded slowly. Different classroom now, just reading hours. Ethan swallowed. Thanks for stepping back with Lily. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. I never wanted to take your spot. I just filled space that was already empty. The words stung because they were not cruel. They were honest. Ethan nodded once. I am trying to make sure it is not empty anymore. Daniel gave a small, respectful nod. Good. That night, Ethan sat at the kitchen table long after Lily went to bed. Maya came in for water. They stood there in the low fridge light. I saw Daniel today, Ethan said. Maya stiffened. He was at the district office. She leaned against the counter. I never meant for it to go that far. Ethan looked at her. You did not stop it either. Silence stretched. She whispered, I was lonely before I was unfaithful. He closed his eyes. I was exhausted before I was absent. Two truths. Neither fixed anything. Weeks rolled into a new routine. Exchange days, shared calendars. Therapy appointments they attended separately. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, Ethan got a call from Lily's school nurse. She has a fever and says her stomach hurts. We tried calling Mom first. First, the word hit like a slap, but you were listed as primary for today, so we called you next. Ethan was already grabbing his keys. I am coming. At the nurse's office, Lily lay curled on a vinyl cot, hair stuck to her forehead. When she saw him, relief washed over her face so clearly it made his chest ache. Daddy. I am here. He signed her out, carried her to the car, buckled her in with careful hands. At home, he made soup from a can and sat beside her on the couch. She fell asleep against his shoulder. His laptop buzzed with work emails. He ignored them. This was the kind of moment no certificate could prove. Later that evening, Maya called to check in. How is she? Sleeping? Pause. Thank you for getting her. Ethan stared at the quiet living room. I should have always been the one they called. Maya did not argue. Spring shifted toward summer. One afternoon, Lily came home with a permission slip for a 2-day outdoor camp. Parents invited for the closing bonfire. Ethan read the form twice. Parent signature singular. He handed it to Maya. You sign it. She looked at him. We both can. There's only one line. They stood there, paper between them like a test neither wanted. Finally, Ethan slid it back to her. You sign, but we both show up. She nodded. At the camp, kids sang songs under string lights. Smoke from the fire clung to jackets. Parents sat on logs, faces lit orange. Lily spotted them and ran over, grabbing both their hands at once. Look, this is my mom and my dad. No hesitation, no second name, just both. Ethan felt something inside him loosen, not healed, but breathing. That night, after Lily fell asleep in the back seat on the drive home, Maya spoke quietly. She told her counselor she still feels like she ruined everything. Ethan kept his eyes on the road. You changed everything. She nodded, tears sliding down silently. "I am trying to learn how to live with that." He did not comfort her, but he did not pull away either, because pain had become something they shared, even if the causes were different. Summer break began. Longer days, later bedtimes. One afternoon, Lily asked if Daniel could still come to her soccer game. The question hit Ethan in the gut. He forced himself not to react fast. "Why do you want him there?" She twisted her fingers. "He helped me practice last year." Maya watched Ethan carefully. This was another test. Ethan took a breath. "He can come, but I will be there too." Lily smiled with relief. That evening on the soccer field, Ethan stood on one side of the bleachers, Daniel on the other. Both clapped when Lily kicked the ball. Both shouted encouragement. Strangers might have thought it was a friendly group. Only they knew how much had been torn to get here. After the game, Daniel approached Ethan. "Thanks for letting me come." Ethan nodded. "She cares about you. That matters." Daniel hesitated. "You are doing good, man. She talks about how you help with homework now." Ethan gave a tired half-smile, trying to earn my title back. Daniel shook his head. "You do not earn father. You just stop giving it away." The words stayed with Ethan. Months earlier he would have bristled. Now he just absorbed them. That night, Ethan tucked Lily into bed. She looked up at him in the dim light. "Are you and Mom going to be okay?" He sat on the edge of the bed. "We are figuring out what okay means." She considered that. "As long as you are still my dad." He brushed hair from her forehead. "Always." Later, alone in the kitchen, Ethan realized something he had been too angry to see before. He had not just been replaced. He had stepped back slowly, choice by choice, until someone else filled the space. That did not excuse Maya, did not erase the betrayal, but it gave him a direction that was not just revenge, presence, showing up when it was boring, when it was inconvenient, when no one clapped. At the next parent-teacher conference, Miss Carter sat across from both of them. She looked nervous at first. Lily is doing well socially, more confident. Ethan listened carefully, asked questions, wrote notes. Maya added comments about reading time at home. For the first time in a long while, they sounded like a team instead of opponents. As they walked out, Miss Carter stopped Ethan. "I am glad you came tonight." He nodded. "So am I." Because this time, no one had to ask who Dad was. It was written in the way Lily looked for him when she had something to say, in the way the school called his number without hesitation, in the way he rearranged his life around moments that used to seem small. The humiliation of that first school event never fully faded. It lived in him like a scar that tightened in cold weather. But it also marked the exact point where he stopped assuming love was understood and started proving it, one ordinary day at a time. By early fall, the house sounded different. Less slammed doors, more quiet footsteps moving around each other. Not peace, but something less sharp than war. Ethan learned Lily knew routines the way you learn a second language as an adult, slowly, with mistakes. Which stuffed animal she needed on her left side. How she liked the bathroom light left on with the door cracked. That she got nervous on Sunday nights and pretended she was not. One evening she sat at the kitchen table pushing peas into a tight green pile instead of eating. Ethan noticed. "Is school okay?" She shrugged, then her lip trembled. "A boy said I do not have a real family." The words hit him harder than anything the lawyers had said. He sat across from her. "What did you say?" "Nothing." Tears spilled, fast and embarrassed. Ethan moved his chair beside her. "Families are not about looking perfect from the outside. They are about who shows up when you are scared." She sniffed. "Like when I had a fever." "Yes." She leaned into him. "Then we are real." He closed his eyes for a second. "Very real." The next week he got an email from the school counselor requesting a meeting. Lily had written a short essay titled My Family. The counselor wanted to make sure everyone was comfortable with how she described things. In the small office with posters about feelings taped to the walls, Lily read her paper out loud. My mom and dad do not live the same way they used to. They both love me. Sometimes they are sad, sometimes they are mad. But they both come to my things now. She looked up. Is that okay? Ethan swallowed. It is honest. Maya nodded, eyes shiny. The counselor smiled gently. Kids handle truth better than secrets. On the drive home, Maya spoke softly. I did not realize how much she noticed. Ethan kept his eyes on the road. Kids always notice. They just do not have the words yet. Later that month came open house night. Crowded hallways. Art projects taped crooked on cinder block walls. Ethan stood by Lily's desk while she showed him a math workbook. Maya stood on the other side pointing at a gold star sticker. For a moment, they both reached to move a strand of hair from Lily's face at the same time. Their hands brushed. Both pulled back. Lily giggled. You both do that. They laughed awkwardly. But it was not a cruel moment. Just a shared one. In November, Ethan Company announced restructuring. Longer hours expected from management, travel likely. The old version of him would have said yes before the sentence ended. This time he sat in his car after the meeting, staring at the steering wheel. Opportunity, promotion track, money. He pictured another school event with an empty chair where he should be. He walked back inside and declined the expanded role. His supervisor looked surprised. Family priorities, Ethan said. It felt terrifying and strangely steady. That night he told Maya. She looked at him for a long time. You really are changing. He gave a small, tired smile. I had to hit bottom first. She nodded. I'm still figuring out who I am without all the lies. Winter came with earlier sunsets and heavier coats. One evening, Lily had a small holiday performance in the school gym. Metal chairs. Paper snowflakes taped to walls. Parents squeezed in shoulder to shoulder. Ethan and Maya sat side by side, not touching, but not avoiding each other either. When Lily spotted them from the stage, her whole face lit up. She waved both hands wildly before remembering she was supposed to stand still. The music started, off-key singing. Tiny voices too loud for the microphone. Ethan felt tears gather and did not wipe them away. Beside him, Maya cried too, not for the same reasons, but for the same girl. After the show, Lily ran into their arms at the same time. Did you hear me? Every word, Ethan said. You were the loudest, Maya added with a laugh. Lily beamed. Good. On the walk to the car, snow began to fall in thin, uncertain flakes. Lily tried to catch them on her tongue. Ethan watched her and felt a quiet understanding settle in his chest. His life had not been restored. It had been rebuilt into something different, less polished, more intentional. Later that night after Lily slept, Maya lingered in the kitchen doorway. I do not know if we will ever be what we were. Ethan nodded. I do not think we should be. She looked down at her hands. But maybe we can be something honest. He met her eyes. Honest is better. They stood there, not reaching for each other, not walking away. Just two people who had broken something precious and were learning how to live with the pieces without cutting their daughter on the edges. Upstairs, Lily turned in her sleep and murmured, Dad. The word traveled down the hallway like a soft confirmation. Not of a perfect family, but of a real one. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough. January brought a cold that settled into the walls. The house creaked at night. Heating vents clicked on and off like a tired heartbeat. Ethan got used to the new rhythm of mornings. Packing lunches while coffee brewed. Signing reading logs without being reminded. Checking the school app before bed instead of work email. One Tuesday, Lily stood in the doorway with her backpack half on. Dad, can you come to career day next month? He blinked. Career day. Parents talking about their jobs to a room full of wiggling kids. I can ask off, he said. Her shoulders dropped with relief. Okay. Some kids said only real jobs count. He smiled softly. What is a real job? She thought hard. One where you wear a badge or a uniform. Ethan laughed. I just wear wrinkled shirts and stare at spreadsheets. That is still real. She grinned. Good. Because you are my pick. After she left for school, he stood in the quiet kitchen holding his mug too long. Chosen. Not by default. By her. At work, he requested the morning off weeks in advance. Blocked it in red on his calendar. Career day. Lily. No meeting could erase that. February came with gray skies and a surprise email from the school principal. Parent Advisory Committee nominations open. Maya forwarded it to Ethan. Thought you might want to try. He stared at the message. A year ago, he had not even known when meetings were held. Now, he found himself typing a short paragraph about wanting to be more involved in school life. He almost deleted it twice, then hit send. At dinner, he told Lily. Her eyes went wide. You want to go to meetings about school? Yes, she giggled. That is so weird. He nodded. I am learning to be weird. Across the table, Maya watched him with something like cautious respect. One Saturday afternoon, Lily had a friend over for a playdate. The girls sprawled on the living room floor building a cardboard castle. Her friend glanced at Ethan. Are you the dad or the stepdad? The question froze the room for half a second. Lily answered before he could. He is just my dad. Just simple enough. Later, Ethan stood at the sink washing paintbrushes while the girls laughed in the other room. The word just echoed in his chest like a quiet repair. Into March, the school held a family fun run. Cold air, paper bibs pinned crooked on jackets. Ethan jogged beside Lily, letting her set the pace. Halfway through, she grabbed his hand. Run with me. He matched her steps, breath puffing in white clouds. Other parents passed them. Some faster, some slower. It did not matter. At the finish line, she threw her arms around his waist. We did it. Yes, we did. Across the field, Maya clapped, filming on her phone. Later, she sent him the video. No commentary, just the clip. He watched it twice that night, noticing how Lily never let go of his hand until the very end. Spring returned with muddy shoes and longer light in the evenings. Ethan got an email from the principal. He had been accepted to the advisory committee. Meetings once a month. Discussions about budget, programs, student support. He stared at the email, a strange mix of pride and disbelief. The first meeting felt awkward. He did not know the acronyms, did not understand half the funding charts, but he stayed, asked questions, listened. At pickup the next day, Lily ran to him. Mom said you are on a school team now. Something like that. She smiled like he had just told her he'd joined the moon. Cool. One night, as he tucked her in, she asked, quietly, Are you and Mom friends now? He paused. We are learning to be better partners for you. She considered that. Is that like friends? Sometimes. She nodded, satisfied enough. Okay. Downstairs, Maya stood in the hallway. Thank you for not fighting in front of her anymore. He nodded. Thank you for not pretending everything was fine. They stood there, not close, not far. Two people who had stopped trying to win and started trying to stabilize. At the next school assembly, months after that first humiliating day, Ethan sat in the same courtyard. Same folding chairs, same bright sun, different weight in his chest. When Lily's name was called for a reading award, Miss Carter smiled toward the audience. Her parents are both here today, both. Ethan and Maya stood side by side. Applause rose around them. No confusion, no second name, just a shared moment, clean and simple. Lily ran into their arms again, breathless and proud. Ethan held her, feeling the steady beat of her heart against his chest. The memory of that first day still lived in him. The sting, the disbelief, the feeling of being erased. But now it sat beside newer memories. Soup on the couch during a fever, jogging across a finish line. Late-night homework help, meetings in plastic school chairs, ordinary things. The kind that quietly define a parent more than any title ever could. As they walked to the car, Lily slipped her hand into his without looking. He squeezed gently. Not to prove anything, not to reclaim something, just because he was there. And this time, he planned to stay. Late spring drifted toward the end of the school year. Calendars filled with spirit days, field trips, and countdown chains made of construction paper loops. Ethan kept the dates written in thick marker on the fridge. Not because Maya reminded him, because he did not trust himself to forget again. One afternoon, Lily came home quieter than usual. She set her backpack down and stood in the kitchen doorway, watching him slice apples. Dad. Yeah. She twisted the hem of her shirt. Next year I will be in second grade. What if my teacher thinks the wrong thing again? The old wound had not disappeared. It had just scarred over. Ethan wiped his hands and knelt in front of her. Then we tell them the right thing right away. Together, she searched his face. You will come. Yes, every beginning matters now. She nodded slowly, tension leaving her shoulders. That night, he emailed the school to ask about teacher assignments for the fall, not demanding, just present. Summer arrived loud and sticky. Long days, chlorine hair, popsicle stains. Lily joined a day camp at the community center. On the first morning, Ethan filled out the registration form carefully. Parent 1, Ethan Morgan. Parent 2, Maya Morgan. Emergency contact, both. No empty spaces, no substitutions. He handed it back to the counselor with steady hands. Mid-July, the camp held a family showcase. Kids performed skits on a small stage in the gym. Folding chairs again. Paper decorations again. Life repeating, but different. Before the show started, Lily tugged his sleeve. If I mess up, do not laugh. He smiled. I will be the loudest clapper, not the loudest laugher. She grinned and ran off. Maya sat beside him. For a while they watched other kids forget lines and bow too early. Then Lily Group went up. She stumbled over one sentence, eyes wide for a split second. Ethan leaned forward, nodding. Silent encouragement. She found her place and kept going. Afterward she ran to them. I almost forgot. But you did not, Maya said. I saw you look at me, Lily told Ethan. That helped. He swallowed past the tightness in his throat. Good. Late August brought back to school shopping. Shoes that would be too small by winter. Crayons that would come home broken. At orientation night, Ethan and Maya walked Lily to her new classroom together. The teacher, Miss Alvarez, smiled warmly. Tell me about your family. Lily looked at both parents. I have a mom and a dad. They both come to stuff now. Miss Alvarez nodded. I'm glad you have a strong support team. No hesitation, no correction. Ethan felt a quiet victory he did not need to celebrate out loud. On the drive home, Maya spoke. She sounds more confident. She is. He glanced at her. So are you. She gave a small, sad smile. I am still learning how to forgive myself. He nodded. I am still learning how to forgive you. The honesty sat between them. Heavy but clean. In October, Ethan attended his third advisory committee meeting. Budget talks dragged on. He nearly checked his phone out of habit, then remembered why he was there. During public comments, a parent thanked the committee for expanding after-school tutoring. Ethan felt a strange pride. Small changes, real impact. Later that week, Lily brought home a drawing. 3 stick figures holding hands. One tall with brown hair, one with long dark hair, one small in the middle. Above them, she had written, My People. Ethan taped it to the fridge without saying much. That night, he stood in the kitchen alone, staring at it longer than necessary. He had once thought being a father was a title that could not be questioned. Now, he understood it was a role you had to step into every single day. Some days badly, some days well, but never absent. One evening in early winter, almost a year after that first painful school event, the school hosted a winter showcase. Choir songs, art displays, hot chocolate in paper cups. Ethan stood near the back of the gym, scanning the crowd the way he had that day. But this time, he was not looking for himself. He already knew where he stood. Lily spotted him and waved wildly from the stage. "Dad." Not shouted, but mouthed clearly. He waved back, heart steady. Maya stood beside him. Not as a replacement, not as an opponent, just another parent who had learned the cost of pretending. When the lights dimmed and the music started, Ethan felt the old scar in his chest. But it no longer burned. It reminded him of the day he was erased, and the long, ordinary days he chose to write himself back in. After the show, Lily slipped her hand into his again, warm, certain. He squeezed gently, not to prove anything, not to reclaim anything, just to answer the unspoken question that had once haunted them both. "Yes, I am still here." Second grade moved faster than he expected. Spelling lists grew longer. Friend dramas got more complicated. Lily started closing her bedroom door sometimes. Not in anger, just in privacy. One afternoon, she came home with a permission slip for a class trip to the local history museum. Parents welcome as chaperones. Limited spots. She placed it on the counter without comment. Ethan picked it up. "Want me to go?" She shrugged, trying to sound casual. "If you are not busy." He filled out the form that night, took a personal day from work. The morning of the trip, he stood outside the school bus with a neon sticker that said chaperone. Kids buzzed with sugar and excitement. Lily climbed on the bus, then looked back to make sure he followed. Inside the museum, she grabbed his hand in the dark exhibit hall. Not because she was scared, because she wanted him to see what she saw. "Look at this, read this sign. Did you know that?" Each question a small thread pulling him deeper into her world. On the bus ride home, she fell asleep against his arm. Her hair smelled like sunscreen and dust. He stayed very still. Like any movement might break the moment. That evening, Maya asked how it went. He told her about the dinosaur skeleton, the gift shop pencil she insisted on buying, the way she would not sit with friends because she wanted the window seat next to him. Maya listened quietly. "I am glad she has that with you." He nodded. "Me too." Winter settled again. A year had passed since the first school ceremony that broke everything open. The school announced another spring celebration, same courtyard, same folding chairs. Ethan saw the email and felt a brief, old tightness in his chest. Then he marked the date on the fridge. Big red circle. The day came bright and windy. Paper banners snapped against the fence. Parents shifted in their seats. A scene almost identical to that memory he had carried like a bruise. Lily Class was called up for recognition and reading growth. She stood in the line, taller now, less baby in her face. Miss Carter stood with the microphone again. "We want to thank the families who support our students at home. Lily Morgan has worked so hard, and her parents have been wonderful partners this year." Parents. Plural. Ethan did not move at first. The word settled slowly, gently. Then Maya nudged his arm. "That means us." They stood together. Applause washed over them, not sharp this time, warm. Lily waved from the stage, beaming. After the ceremony, she ran over. "Did you hear? Every word," Ethan said. She grinned. "I told my class you help me with math even when I get grumpy." Maya laughed. "That is true." Lily grabbed both their hands. "Come see my art." As they walked across the blacktop, Ethan glanced around at the rows of parents. Some distracted, some tired, some fully present. He understood now how easy it was to drift. A quiet the distance could grow. He squeezed Lily's hand gently. She squeezed back without looking. Later that night, after she was asleep, Ethan stood alone in the kitchen again. The house hummed softly. On the fridge were drawings, calendars, permission slips, reminders. Evidence of a life he was finally inside instead of orbiting. He thought about the man he had been, busy, absent. Certain love would wait for him. He thought about the day a stranger had been called Dad in front of everyone. The humiliation had felt like an ending. It had really been an alarm, a brutal, necessary one. Upstairs, Lily turned in her sleep and coughed softly. Ethan headed toward the stairs without thinking, not because of fear, not because of guilt, but because showing up had become instinct, and in the quiet, ordinary steps of climbing those stairs, he finally felt the title settle where it belonged. Not written on a form, not announced on a stage, just lived day after day. Dad. The weeks after the spring celebration carried a different kind of quiet, not fragile, not forced, just lived in. Lily started leaving small notes in random places. A drawing tucked into Ethan's laptop bag. A sticky note on the bathroom mirror that said, "Good luck at work." Once, a crooked heart drawn on the grocery list. He saved them all in the top drawer of his desk. One evening in early summer, thunder rolled in while Lily was brushing her teeth. She came into the hallway with foam on her chin. "Can I sleep in your room?" Ethan glanced at Maya, who was folding laundry on the couch. Of course. Lily curled up on Ethan's side of the bed, a small hand fisted in his t-shirt. As rain tapped against the windows, she whispered into the dark, "I like when you are home." He stared at the ceiling. "I like being home." She fell asleep fast. He stayed awake longer, listening to the storm pass. In July, Lily's birthday party filled the backyard with squealing kids and melting cupcakes. Ethan manned the grill. Maya organized games. They moved around each other easily, not touching, but not tense. At cake time, Lily stood between them, frosting on her nose. "Make a wish," Maya said. Lily squeezed her eyes shut tight. Ethan watched her face, wondering what she asked for. Later that night, while cleaning up balloons from the grass, he asked her quietly, "What did you wish for?" She shrugged. "That things stay the way they are now." He let that sit. No fairy tale, no perfect family, just steady. In early fall, during a routine school pickup, Miss Carter caught Ethan by the gate. "I wanted to tell you Lily volunteered to help a new student today." He smiled. "She said she knows what it feels like to be confused at school." Ethan swallowed. "Thank you for letting her grow through everything." He nodded. "We're both still growing." At home that evening, Lily asked if they could all watch a movie together. Not in separate rooms, not with phones out. On the same couch. They did. Halfway through, Lily fell asleep with her head on Ethan's shoulder and her feet in Maya's lap. Neither adult moved. When the credits rolled, they stayed there a few extra minutes in the quiet glow of the screen. Maya spoke softly. "We hurt her without meaning to. Yes. But we did not leave her there. No, that mattered." Late that night, Ethan tucked Lily into her own bed. She stirred and murmured, "Night, Dad." The word came easy now, unquestioned. Downstairs, he turned off the kitchen light and stood for a moment in the dark. He used to think fatherhood was proven in big gestures, in paychecks, in providing. Now he knew it lived in smaller things. Answering the school call, showing up to the field trip, sitting through long meetings, listening when a child said something small that was actually big. The memory of that first awful day at school still existed, but it no longer defined him. It marked the line between who he had been and who he chose to become. Upstairs, Lily shifted in her sleep. Ethan checked the front door lock, then headed to bed. Tomorrow would be ordinary. Lunches to pack, shoes to find. emails waiting, and he would be there for it. Not perfect. Not redeemed all at once, just present. And this time, that was enough. Time stopped announcing itself in dramatic ways. It just moved. Leaves changed. Shoes got smaller in the closet, then bigger again. Lily learned to braid her own hair, uneven at first, proud anyway. One afternoon in late October, she came home with a permission slip for a class family tree project. Bring photos. Talk about your family story. She set the paper down carefully. Dad, do we have to talk about everything? Ethan read the assignment. We talk about what is true and kind. She looked relieved. Okay. That weekend, they sat at the dining table with a small pile of photos. Baby Lily wrapped in a hospital blanket. A beach trip from years ago, a recent picture from the fun run. Lily pointed at the older ones. Were we happy here? Ethan took a breath. Yes, we were happy. And we also had things we did not handle well. She studied his face. Is that allowed? Yes. She nodded, accepting that answer the way kids accept gravity. At school, the following week, families came in to listen to presentations. Ethan stood at the back of the classroom beside Maya. Lily held up her poster. This is my family. Things changed, but we still belong to each other. Her voice shook a little, then steadied. Ethan felt pride that was deeper than applause. Afterward, on the playground, a parent he barely knew said quietly, "That was brave." Ethan looked at Lily chasing friends across the blacktop. She is braver than we are. Winter returned with early sunsets and breath fogging in the air. One evening, the power went out during dinner. The house fell dark and still. Lily gasped. Ethan found flashlights in the hall closet. They sat together on the couch, wrapped in blankets, eating peanut butter sandwiches by lantern light. It felt oddly peaceful. Lily leaned against him. If the lights never came back, we would still be okay, right? He smiled into the dark. We would figure it out. She nodded, satisfied. The lights flickered back an hour later. No one moved right away. In the spring, nearly 2 years after everything began to unravel, Lily's school held another reading celebration. Same courtyard, same folding chairs. But Lily no longer searched the crowd nervously. She spotted Ethan immediately and waved like she always had, like there had never been a question. After the ceremony, she ran over. Did you hear me read? Every word. She grabbed his hand automatically as they walked to the car. The motion, so natural now it barely registered. That night, after she fell asleep, Ethan stood in her doorway for a moment. He remembered the day he stood in a parking lot with papers on the passenger seat, feeling erased. He remembered the first time she asked if he was still her dad. He remembered how unsure his own voice had sounded. Now, the house held a different kind of quiet. Not the silence of distance, the quiet of presence. He turned off the hallway light and headed to bed. Tomorrow would bring small things again. Homework, spilled milk, lost shoes, ordinary chances to show up. He did not need a stage, a form, or an announcement anymore. Because Father was no longer something that could be taken from him. It was something he lived into, one unremarkable day at a time. By the time Lily turned 8, the house carried history in a softer way. Not erased, not denied, just folded into the background like old photographs in a drawer you do not open every day. One Saturday morning, she padded into the kitchen while Ethan was making pancakes. Hair wild, pajamas inside out. "Dad, do you remember when I was scared to go to school?" He flipped a pancake. "Yeah, I remember." She climbed onto a stool. "I am not scared anymore." He looked at her. "I know." She dipped a finger into syrup and licked it. "Because I know you will come if something is wrong." The simplicity of that statement landed heavier than any speech. He slid a pancake onto her plate. "I will, Always. That afternoon they cleaned out old boxes from the hall closet. Inside one was a stack of school papers from years before. Drawings with shaky letters. A worksheet where Lily had written, "My dad works a lot." Ethan sat back on his heels, staring at the page. Lily peered over his shoulder. Was that true? Yes, she considered it. You do not work like that now. No, why? He met her eyes. Because I almost lost something more important. She nodded slowly, like she understood in the way children do, without needing all the details. Okay, she took the paper and put it back in the box. We can keep it, to remember. That night, after she went to bed, Ethan sat on the couch while Maya gathered laundry. She noticed his expression. What is it? I found an old paper today. She wrote that I worked all the time. Maya sat beside him, not too close. We both missed things back then. He nodded. We do not get to rewrite it. But we did not stay there. She looked at him. No, we did not. Spring rolled in again. Field day, sunscreen, grass stains. Ethan volunteered at the water station, handing out cups to sweaty kids. Lily ran past, ponytail flying. Dad, watch this race. He cheered until his voice cracked. Other parents stood nearby chatting, scrolling phones, living their own versions of busy. Ethan stayed focused on the blur of children sprinting down the field. Later, Lily collapsed beside him on the curb, breathless. Did you see me? I did. I almost fell. But you did not. She grinned. I kept going. He smiled back. Good. On the walk home, she slipped her hand into his like she had 100 times. The gesture had long stopped being about reassurance. It was habit. Connection without thought. That evening, while brushing her hair before bed, she said quietly, "Some kids at school say families have to look a certain way." Ethan worked through a knot gently. "What do you think?" She shrugged. "I think families just have to stay." He paused. "That is a pretty good definition." She smiled at herself in the mirror. "I am smart. Very." Lights out, door cracked, hallway glowing soft. Ethan headed downstairs and paused halfway, listening to the house settle. Dishes drying on the rack. Backpack by the door, a calendar crowded with small, ordinary plans. He thought about the man he used to be. The one who believed love was automatic. Presence optional. He thought about the day his absence had been named out loud in the worst possible way. That moment had split his life in two. Before and after he chose to stay. Upstairs, Lily turned in her sleep and murmured something he could not quite hear. He did not need to. He knew where he belonged when morning came, packing lunches, finding missing shoes, signing forms, sitting in small chairs meant for children, clapping in crowded courtyards. Not because he had to prove he was her father, but because he finally understood that father was not a title someone could give him. It was a promise he kept, in the quiet, unremarkable spaces of every single day. Summer arrived with the smell of cut grass and sunscreen again. Time had looped back to a season that once felt like the edge of something breaking. Now, it felt like space to breathe. Lily spent long afternoons drawing at the kitchen table, while Ethan worked nearby with his laptop closed more often than open. She narrated her pictures like tiny documentaries. This one is us at the park. This one is you burning the pancakes. This one is Mom laughing at you. He let her talk, answering when she needed, listening even when she did not. One evening, she asked if he would come to her swim lessons instead of watching from the car. "I get nervous when I cannot see you," she said, almost as an afterthought. So he sat on the hard metal bleachers, the air thick with chlorine, clapping every time she kicked to the wall. She looked for him between breaths, every lap, every time. In August, just before school started again, Lily had a small meltdown over a missing shoe. Tears, frustration. "I cannot find anything in this house." Ethan almost snapped back, almost said something sharp about responsibility, Then he saw her face, overwhelmed, not defiant. He sat on the floor beside her. "We will find it together." They did, under the couch, dusty and forgotten. She hugged him hard after. "Sorry I yelled. It is okay to be upset," he said. "We just do not stay mean." She nodded seriously, filing that away. Second grade began without fear this time. Ethan walked her to the classroom door on the first day. She did not cling, just waved and went in. He stood in the hallway a moment longer than necessary, then left with a strange mix of pride and ache. That afternoon she came home full of stories about a new reading corner and a class hamster named Pickles. Not once did she ask if he would be there. She already knew. Months later, during another routine school assembly, Ethan sat in the crowd, sunlight on his shoulders. Lily spotted him immediately, gave a quick casual wave, then turned back to her friends. Secure enough not to check twice. It was a small thing, but it meant everything. That night, after dishes were done and the house quiet, Ethan stood at the back door looking out at the dark yard. He thought about the long road from that first shocking moment in the courtyard. The humiliation, the anger, the guilt, the slow, ordinary work of staying. He had once believed fatherhood could be taken from him by a mistake on a form or a name spoken into a microphone. Now he knew it lived somewhere paperwork could not reach. In the way Lily's voice softened when she said Dad. In the way she ran toward him without thinking. In the way his life bent itself quietly around hers. Upstairs, a small voice called down the hall. "Dad, yeah, I cannot sleep." He turned off the porch light and headed for the stairs. Coming, and he went. Not as a grand gesture, not as redemption. Just as the next simple proof that he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Years did not erase the past. They just made it quieter. Lily grew taller. Her voice lost some of its baby softness. Backpacks got heavier, conversations got deeper. One evening, close to her 9th birthday, she sat at the kitchen counter doing homework while Ethan washed dishes. Out of nowhere, she said, "I barely remember when that teacher called someone else my dad." His hands paused in the soapy water. "What do you remember?" She shrugged, just feeling confused, and then later, feeling okay. He dried his hands and sat across from her. I am glad the okay part stuck. She looked at him, studying his face the way kids do when they are measuring truth. Me too. Then she went back to her math. Simple, not dramatic. But it settled something in him he did not realize was still tense. At school that spring, she had to write a short essay about a person who makes you feel safe. She handed it to him at the kitchen table without ceremony. "You can read it." He unfolded the paper. "When I am worried, my dad always listens, even if he is tired. He comes to my things and does not leave early. He makes bad jokes when I am sad. He smells like coffee and soap. When I hear his keys in the door, I know everything is still normal." Ethan had to blink a few times before the words stayed still on the page. He folded it carefully. "Thank you for letting me read that." She shrugged, embarrassed now. It was just homework. But it was not. Later that night, after she was asleep, he stood in the hallway holding the paper. Years ago, he had been a man who thought being a father meant providing, planning, protecting from a distance. He had learned the harder version, showing up when you were tired, staying in the room when things were uncomfortable, letting your child see you trying, not just succeeding. Downstairs, the house hummed with the quiet sounds of a life lived together. A lunchbox drying on the counter, shoes by the door, a calendar marked with ordinary plans. He realized something gentle and surprising. The worst day of his life had not been the end of his place in his daughter world. It had been the moment that forced him to step fully into it. Upstairs, Lily turned in her sleep. He did not rush in this time. She did not need him every minute anymore. But he knew, with a calm certainty that no one could shake, that if she called, he would still go. Not out of fear of losing his title, not to prove anything. Just because being her dad was no longer something he hoped was true. It was something he had built, quietly and patiently, one ordinary day at a time. The school year rolled forward the way all school years do, measured less by months and more by projects, concerts, and the slow march of new shoes replacing old ones. Lily started bringing home chapter books instead of thin paper readers. She read, sprawled across the couch, one leg hooked over the armrest, murmuring words under her breath like she was tasting them. Sometimes she asked Ethan what a word meant. Sometimes she figured it out alone. Both felt like milestones. One rainy afternoon she came home quieter than usual, backpack sliding off one shoulder. "Hard day?" he asked gently. She nodded, not looking at him. "Group project. No one wanted my idea." He felt the old instinct to fix it, to tell her what to say next time, how to win people over. Instead, he pulled out a chair beside her at the kitchen table. "That stings." She blinked, surprised he did not jump straight to advice. "Yeah? What was your idea? A poster with moving parts." "They said it was too much work." He smiled softly. "Big ideas often are." She studied her hands. "Maybe I should just pick easy ones." He shook his head. "You can learn to explain big ideas better, but do not shrink them just because others feel lazy." She looked up at him, measuring. "Okay." That night, she worked on a small version of the moving poster anyway, just for herself. Ethan sat nearby answering emails he did not really read, mostly just being there while tape, paper, and markers covered the table. When she finished, she held it up. "It actually works." "It does." She grinned, pride replacing the earlier slump. Small recoveries like that began to fill their days. Not dramatic rescues, just steady presence while she tried and failed and tried again. In early winter, the school held a parent discussion night about online safety. Ethan almost skipped it. Long day, traffic, cold wind. But he went. Sat in a plastic chair in the cafeteria under buzzing lights while a counselor talked about screen time and peer pressure. He took notes. Not because he loved meetings. Because he had learned absence grows quietly. On the drive home, he realized how different this life looked from the one he once chased. Fewer late nights at the office, fewer flights, fewer reasons to say maybe next time, more folding chairs, more school hallways, more ordinary evenings that would never make a photo album but somehow mattered more than anything else. One Saturday, Lily asked if he would help her clean out her room. A job that always started with good intentions and ended with piles of rediscovered treasures. They sat on the floor sorting through old drawings and forgotten toys. She held up a crumpled paper with stick figures. "Look how bad I drew hands." He laughed. "We all start somewhere." She studied the picture. "You kept this." "Of course. Even the bad ones." She leaned against him for a second, shoulder warm against his arm, then went back to sorting. The closeness was casual now. Not a need, a choice. That night after she went to bed, Ethan found himself standing in the doorway again, a habit he never fully broke. She slept sprawled sideways, blankets kicked off, hair in her face. He remembered the night years ago when she asked if he was still her dad. The fear in her voice, the doubt in his. Now there was no question hanging in the air, just a child growing steadily toward her own life, secure enough not to check every moment. Downstairs, Maya was at the table paying bills. They talked easily about schedules and grocery lists, the sharp edges of the past worn down by time and shared responsibility. They were not the same couple they had once been, but they were partners in the way that mattered most. Before bed, Lily patted out one more time. "Dad, yeah, I forgot to tell you. My teacher said my reading has really improved," he smiled. "I am proud of you." She grinned sleepily. You always say that, because it is always true. She nodded, satisfied, and went back to her room. Ethan turned off the lights and stood for a moment in the quiet living room. The day had been unremarkable. No ceremonies, no big speeches, no dramatic turning points. Just homework, meetings, cleaning, small conversations. But he understood now that fatherhood did not peak in grand gestures. It accumulated in these unnoticed hours, in the decision to show up again and again when no one was watching. He headed upstairs, the floor creaking softly under his steps, already thinking about tomorrow morning. Lunches to pack. A permission slip to sign. A ride to school where Lily would talk the whole way about a book he had not read. And he would listen. Because this was the life he had nearly stepped out of once, and the one he chose, every ordinary day, to stay inside. Morning light came soft through the kitchen window, turning the dust in the air into something almost golden. Ethan stood at the counter spreading peanut butter on toast while Lily sat swinging her legs from a chair that was getting too small for her. "Did you sign the permission slip?" she asked through a mouthful of cereal. He tapped the paper on the fridge. "All ready in your backpack." She grinned. "You never forget now." He smiled back. "I try not to." The bus honked outside. She grabbed her bag, then ran back for a quick hug that almost knocked the breath out of him. "Bye, Dad. Bye, kiddo." The door closed, and the house settled into its daytime quiet. Ethan rinsed dishes, wiped the counter, and paused for a moment with his hands resting on the cool edge of the sink. Years ago, mornings like this had blurred together. A rush, a checklist, his mind already at the office before he left the driveway. Now he noticed things. The way her handwriting on the calendar was getting neater. The stack of library books by the couch. The faint pencil marks on the wall where she had once tried to measure her own height. Life had not become perfect. There were still tense conversations with Maya sometimes. Still days when work pressed hard. Still moments when he felt unsure, tired, stretched thin. But he no longer lived on the outside of his own family. He lived in it. That afternoon, Lily burst through the door with a gap-toothed smile. "Guess what?" "What?" "I got picked to read my story at assembly next week." He felt the familiar swell in his chest. "That is huge. You have to come. I would not miss it." She nodded, like that answer had been guaranteed. Later that evening, as they sat at the table working through her spelling words, she looked up suddenly. "Do you think things would be different if that teacher never made that mistake?" He set his pen down. Probably. Worse or better. He considered, maybe easier, but not better. She tilted her head. Why? Because sometimes something breaking is the only reason people fix what they were ignoring. She thought about that, then nodded slowly, like a puzzle piece sliding into place. Okay, at the assembly the following week, Ethan sat in the same courtyard where everything had once fallen apart. Same folding chairs. Same bright sky, different heart. Lily stood on the small stage, paper trembling slightly in her hands as she read her story about a dog who gets lost and finds its way home. Her voice wavered once, then steadied. When she finished, the applause washed over the crowd. Ethan clapped until his palms stung. She scanned the audience, found him instantly, and smiled. No confusion. No searching past him. Just recognition. Afterward, she ran into his arms. "Did I do okay? You did great." She beamed. "I knew you would be here." He hugged her tighter. "Always." On the walk back to the car, she slipped her hand into his without looking. It fit differently now. Longer fingers. Stronger grip. But the meaning was the same. A few days after the assembly, Ethan picked Lily up from school a little early for a dentist appointment. She climbed into the car, backpack thudding against the seat. He handed her a snack without looking back. "How was your day?" "Normal," she said. He smiled. Good normal or boring normal. Good normal. They stopped at a red light near the park. Lily turned in her seat, studying him for a moment. Dad. Yeah. Do you remember when I used to be scared, someone would say you were not my dad? He nodded slowly. I remember? She shrugged like it was nothing now. I do not worry about that anymore. Something in his chest loosened. Why not? Because now, when people say dad at school, I just think of you. It does not feel confusing. The light turned green. He drove, hands steady on the wheel. She leaned back, humming to herself, already onto something else in her mind. But Ethan stayed in that moment a little longer, because the fear that once lived in her voice had quietly disappeared. Not with a big speech, not with a dramatic scene, just through hundreds of ordinary days where he kept showing up. That night, after she fell asleep, Ethan stood by her door one more time. He did not linger out of fear anymore, just gratitude. For the second chance he had not asked for but had chosen to take, for the ordinary days that had stitched their lives back together. For the simple word that no longer felt fragile. Dad. Downstairs, the house hummed softly. Tomorrow would bring more small things. Missed alarms, homework questions, dinner dishes, and he would be there. Not because he was trying to prove he belonged, but because, through every mistake, every hard conversation, every quiet act of staying, he had finally learned what that belonging really meant. He turned off the hall light and went to bed, carrying with him the steady certainty that fatherhood was not a moment you were given. It was a promise you kept, over and over, in the ordinary hours that no one else ever saw. If this story felt real to you, if you have ever known what it means to almost lose something that should have never been taken for granted, you are not alone here. On this channel, we tell stories about mistakes, second chances, quiet strength, and the kind of love that is not perfect but chooses to stay. If you believe ordinary moments can change a life, subscribe and stay with us for more stories that feel like they could be your own, your neighbor, your family. Leave a comment and tell us what moment in this story hit you the hardest. Your voice matters, and someone reading might need to hear it. And if this story moved you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that it is never too late to show up and make things right.